pjnet.tv. It is Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Maybe some other time elsewhere, 24th February. Okay, our bumper is running. We are broadcasting live. Our streaming server is, streaming, and we are recording. And we have a chat room eager to hear our next guest. We will begin a countdown to Studio 11. Well, good evening and welcome to pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick, and I am sure glad to be here. And I hope you are too. Now, many of you are here because each Wednesday night, Michelle Medlock Adams comes our way and shares with us, but not tonight. We have something better. No, we have... Michelle called this afternoon, and she's okay. There's no problem. But she's always got deadlines. You know, she's a writer, but the deadline that she is facing tonight or today has nothing to do with writing. It has to do with they sold their house and they have to get their stuff moved out. And she's been dealing with that throughout the day and just didn't need the pressure of being on, national and worldwide broadcast facilities here at pjnet.tv. But as she always does, she always finds somebody interesting to take her place. I never have to worry about it. So, who then is the interesting person that we are about to meet? Well, all the way from the Republic of California is Miss Mariah Boland. And Mariah, it has been so much fun in just the brief time that we have spoken. You are not really a California girl, though, are you?
No, I'm a Montana girl who has been displaced in California.
Folks, I was going on her Facebook page and I'm seeing all these horses and horses and horses, and I'm thinking that just doesn't smack of Southern California. So we'll talk about your California ministry here in just a moment, but you were in the remote quiet. You were performing at the Civic Center of your town there in Montana that has 350 people?
Yes. We came from a small town in Montana.
I thought I lived in a small town. There's not a traffic signal here. You were watching Monday Night Football on about Wednesday, somewhere around in there when it got
on our rabbit ears.
Yeah, that's right. So what have you been doing in Montana that, I have so many questions. Okay, folks, let me back up a minute. Let me try to recover this. Mariah is not an author. She has not authored a book. Is not about to author a book that I'm aware of.
Right.
But you met Michelle at a writers' conference?
Yes.
How?
So, my friend Jean is an author, and she won the Serious Writers Book of the Year Award and was going to Nashville to receive an award. And I told her certainly she couldn't go alone to get a prestigious award. So I really just felt called to go with her. So I went there, and that is how I met Michelle and Bethany. They were hosting the event, and I sat at a table with them, and it was exactly where God needed to place me to meet them. I had been praying. I lead a women's Bible study. I have for about 10 years, and was praying for the next study that I would do with them, and ended up at the table with Michelle and Bethany. They had just authored Platinum Faith and asked if I would consider doing it with my group. And it just made me chuckle. I was like, God, you called me to come to Nashville and be Jean's +1 so you could place the next Bible study that you needed me to do with my ladies in my hand by the authors. And so it was just an incredible journey of faith, and that's how I'm here with you, through that connection through Michelle.
Okay. Now, before I have a serious question, but in the meantime, I'm envisioning these award ceremonies like you see on TV, and they announce the nominees and then the winner, and then the winner and their entourage of producers and publicists and all this. So when your friend Jean won the award, did you go up there on the stage and hold the trophy together and make speeches together? Was it that dramatic? No.
So almost is cool, but not quite because of COVID. So it was a very quaint event in a house in Nashville. They did a tremendous job making it special. In light of the circumstances we all had with social distancing and not being able to gather as a group. So we got to sit, just Jean and I, at a table with Michelle and Bethany and talk to them just as you would at a women's Bible study or out to lunch, about all the things that mattered, including the move Michelle's doing right now, and ministering to her through that, because I had just gone through it. And so God placed us all there together to minister to each other in different ways. But the walk to the stage was 3 steps to a beautiful fireplace where they received their award.
Mariah, you have mentioned women's Bible study already 3 times. Apparently, that is an ingredient in your life's recipe.
Yeah, I was called to women's ministry about 10 years ago. I'm a mom and a nurse, a wife. We had 4 kids, and I just noticed the women around me really spend a lot of time taking care of and meeting the needs of others, and needed a place to come together, gather together, be ministered to, love on each other, have our cups filled, so we could continue to minister to our husbands and our children and the other places God was using us in, the other areas of our life. So I started it at our church, and we did it in person. And the first Bible study, I just brought tubs where women could soak their feet and give each other pedicures and manicures, and I would just minister to them through the Word, and we would sit around and pray together and study together. Well, they just had a time to really be renewed and refreshed, both physically and spiritually. So that's how it started.
Folks, when we were doing the kind of dry run test connection that we do with first-time, visitors here, or guests, I should call you, she told the story about the manicures and pedicures. I thought she meant metaphorically, spirit. But no, wait a minute, folks. I'm Southern Baptist, and we read the account of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. We don't want to do that. So we think that's metaphorical. We don't really do that. We just think it's a good idea. We just don't do it. But anyway, here you are. Now you said you started at your church. Now I'm trying to envision a town in Montana with there's more horses in town than there are people. Okay, and so we can't be talking about a whole lot of women, right?
The church was one town over, which is slightly bigger. And we had anywhere from 10 to 20 women, depending on the study, but typically 10. I've always been blessed. I think one of the most important things of a women's ministry is having women of all ages. Women from 20 to 80 have consistently been involved in my studies, and I think it's so incredible how God speaks to different women in the study and how they share, and it keeps the younger women on track as they're growing in their faith, and it keeps the more seasoned women in their faith renewed and refreshed by the new questions and the new sharing and the revelations by the younger women in the studies. So it's been so fun to see them minister to each other.
Well, anytime you get, if you have a small town, you're going to have similarities in cultural experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's Montana.
Right.
Not a whole lot of rocket scientists in Montana and university professors. There's really just good folks. But you said younger and older. So you've got a group of 10 to 20 women. And so how, the gospel message is so true regardless of your age. It's relevant, but at the same time, our life experiences are so different. I remember early in my, Christian life, the prayer requests were about career choices, career changes, having a baby, raising that baby. Now it's like, oh gosh, I went to the doctor and I've got this, that, or the other, and everybody's sick, So how do you take a group and minister the same material to such a broad spectrum of demographics?
That's a great question. So, my Bible studies changed its face over the years. We went from meeting in a local church where most of us went to church together to now my Bible study is completely online because I've been moved to Southern California, and we have women from 10 different states attending this Bible study. And so I really allow the Holy Spirit to speak through the women to each other. And so I pray about the study we do, and God's just delivered us some great studies. Just always, His timing is perfect, the study we need to be doing. But I like to think of myself more than a teacher as a facilitator, because what I want to happen in that Bible study is what God lays on different people's hearts for them to feel safe to share with other members of the group. And I'm always sit back in awe at the things that God's laid on one person's heart and how it speaks to another person's heart, just what they needed to hear in the group, and how He uses different people from different walks, different ages, but might be experiencing similar feelings or similar situations, and just the prayer that I pray each week over my study is that we would not only be hearers of the word, that we take that in, but that we be doers of the word when we leave that study, and we will take what we learn and apply it and share it with others. And so just watching that happen, not only in my study, but then when we come back, one of the questions I ask everybody is, tell me how God was working in your life this week. Tell me about something that was a struggle and you saw God work, or something that you have a question about that we can share with each other. And so it's really challenging the group to use the growth they're having in God to minister to those around them.
Mariah, we were talking about demographics. I'm catching hell from the chat room for stereotyping women and people. But anyway, from the chat room, seasoned women. I like that better than old or elderly. That was from Catherine Paysauer, and I really admire. She has taught physical ed for at least some, if not a lot, of her educational career, and she is the picture of health. You can tell that she's taken good care of that temple that the Holy Spirit resides in our body. You've been doing Bible studies back to back, you say, for 10 years, and looking back, any regrets, any situations that you just felt like, oh boy, I need to find something else? Absolutely
many regrets, or I call them lessons that God's allowed me to walk through. One of the things He's really challenged me with was giving godly counsel. And there have been people in my Bible study, but also just different people in my communities that God's brought me in contact with that have sought out counsel in me. And I look back of how I didn't give wise counsel because I didn't go to God first, or I wanted to rush the process that God was having in their life. I didn't have enough patience with them, or those are some of my biggest regrets. Was really focusing that counsel back towards God.
Well, it's kind of tough, when you're leading a group, because they look up to you as the leader. And so often we hold our leaders up into such a position that they really nobody could ever live up to our expectations. So when you're challenged, when someone comes to you, you're supposed to have the answer. So you feel pressed to give, quote, the answer. And maybe discernment would say, that's a good question, and that's a process we're going to have to work through. That's not you didn't get in this mess overnight. You're not going to get out of it overnight. But we're here. You learn some things over time. But in that moment, the clock's running. You got to call a play, coach. We can't. The clock keeps running. So, but surely there have also been some victorious moments.
The fact that I still get this opportunity is absolutely incredible. And just how God continues to give me the tools and resources that allow me to continue to minister. So just a quick story here. I've worked with the same hospital system for several years. And through that journey, I'd worked for them for about 13 years on a second stint, and I was laid off. I was pulled in an office one day, told they were making cuts, and my position was cut as of that day. My husband was out of the country in Morocco, and I had a son competing in the National High School Rodeo, and I really had to think about how I was going to handle that situation. I work for a faith-based organization. And so I said, this is unfortunate. My husband's out of the country, and I know these decisions weren't just yours. This is hard, but I trust that God is going to walk me through this. And it felt very punitive for me. I'm like, am I being fired? I'm kind of not getting what's going on here. I've always done a good job. And they're like, no, we really like you. We just needed to cut your position. So feel free to apply with the organization again in a different capacity. So I ended up getting half a summer off while my husband was out of town and could focus on just spending time with my kids and giving them that extra love they needed with their dad out of the country. And I got a call back from the organization, and they asked me if I would apply for another position. And at that moment, I had to decide, was I going to be mad and angry and hurt, or was this job really part of my ministry and God was aligning this for me to serve him in a different capacity? So I applied and I got the job, and the job was designing curriculums, and it's all remote and it's just, long story short, it's allowed me now to be able to start ministering over the computer and touching now, instead of a small group in Red Lodge, a women's ministry that touches 10 different states. And it's allowed my husband to make a total career change to serve his country, and me to be able to be a mom and lead Bible study and also work for a faith-based organization in the capacity that they needed me to. So it's been amazing to me to just, if I could get over myself and being offended, and many people said, how can you go back and work for them? They fired you. Well, had I not been able to let God just walk me through that and trust him in the process, I wouldn't be able to be having the opportunities I'm having now.
Amazing. That victory came at quite a cost, personally. I know people. I'm reminded of the story. Well, we don't have time to. I'm going to give you. We're out of time, but you are what I would call the super mom. Okay, you have got 4 young ladies in your home, so you got 5 ladies, 1 guy. How do you balance all of that? How do you watch these little babies turn into young women? It must be quite an experience. I'll give you 2 minutes to tell us about your kids.
All right. I just have to correct you. I have 2 sons and 2 daughters, and
I thought you had 4
it
girls.
is the grace of God that I can parent and work. And I think I certainly haven't always done it exactly how I think it should have been done, but God grants us grace, and keeping God at the center of your marriage and of your family allows you to do things that you can't imagine you could do on your own. And that's the short answer, is just continuing to trust God every day in the process.
Wow. And imagine, well, there's benefits, the new thing where everybody works from home at their computers, that puts a whole new spin on parenting. That it's
Yes.
a real opportunity when you think about it, because now you can spend time with your kids, and your dog or horse or whatever you're doing. So, well, Mariah, it has been quite a journey, and we wish you Godspeed. As
you.
the Lord continues to lead in your life, and as you minister to women in state after state after state, no matter what state you find yourself in. But it's been a real blessing to hear your story, and an encouragement to all of us. And we appreciate you taking time to check in with us and fill us in on it. And we just can't wait to hear the good things the Lord has in store for you.
Great. Thanks for having me. Be blessed, everybody.
There you go. Folks, that was Mariah Holdbrook. And there you see, from high atop the Eagle's Nest broadcast facilities here at PJNet. This is live. See, I'll wave at you. There you go. Okay. And this is where it all happens. Folks, we've got some new toys all the time coming in. You never know when we're going to have more. I tried to share with you the other night. It was a total failure. I was experimenting with numerous microphones and realized as I was changing them, you never heard the change. I was watching the replay. Sorry about that. Folks, it's wonderful. Whoa, wait a minute. What's that name doing up there? Let me get rid of that. There it goes. What a great time it's been. Folks, we are beginning to get traction on the 3D animation and modeling and all the geometry and the physics and all that kind of stuff. What a challenge this is going to be, but I am really feeling good about it, and I appreciate all the support and all the prayers and comments that you all make. It's the fuel that kind of keeps my motor running, that affirmation, those attaboys, and it's tough. I just got some news, and I'm not telling anything that's not public here. Just heard from an old friend of PJNet .TV. Roger called, and he is checking himself in to a care facility where he can get he will be ministered to for some, he is a recovering alcoholic, and thank God he hasn't drank in years, but he has found that he has substituted other types of addictions that he needs to be free of the bondage from. So he will be in that facility for 30 days is what's planned. He's checking in at 4 a.m. and had a nice chat with him this afternoon for about an hour. Well, folks, we're going to wrap it up tonight. If you see the little green dot on Facebook, that means I'm up, and I will be until about 5 a.m. Working on the animated 3D project. So if you get lonesome or you're just don't have anything to do, hit me up and we'll talk, and I'll bring you up to date. Before I leave you, I'd like to ask you 2 questions that you would ask yourself, I hope. Here's the first one. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Second question is, when was that? I certainly hope that none of us will be satisfied with our answers to either of those two questions.